Hello, everybody, and welcome to this journal author interview video. I'm Don Finn, president of the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and I also serve as the publications chair. And today with me, I have one of the authors from our current journal, Dalanda Bond. I'm just going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself and going to ask her a couple of questions. So Dalanda, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Don. My name is Dalanda Bond, and I am an education program specialist for North Carolina Community College System Office's College and Career Readiness Department. And I have been in that position just for a little while, but prior to that, I worked at Edgecombe Community College as a chief examiner, and I oversaw some of the data analysis for the program.
Great. Great. Well, really appreciate you taking some time to talk a little bit about your piece, your article, Racial Equity in Adult Education, a Historical Glimpse at Johns Island Citizenship School. So tell me and tell our audience, why did you write this journal or this article for the COABE Journal?
Okay. Well, my article centers on an adult education teacher, Bernice Robinson, who wasn't officially trained to be an instructor. She was trained to be a seamstress and beautician, but just answered the call to assist with adult literacy classes that were being conducted through the citizenship schools that had been established in Johns Island. I think Bernice Robinson's story is well situated within discussions of adult literacy education and racial equity. The work she and other teachers did to empower Black Southerners to vote demonstrates the role that adult education has had and continues to have in addressing issues of racial equity. I think Bernice Robinson's approach, her classroom setup, her unique pedagogy, as it was called, spoke to how adult literacy classes can be used to address simultaneously learners' academic needs as well as their need to ensure fair and equitable treatment within their communities and in society in general.
Definitely, yeah. That's very interesting, and I think what I found, what I found so interesting about this article was the time frame that it took place with the Jim Crow laws in the South and the different literacy tests and different barriers that were created to prevent Black Americans from voting in the South. So as you were writing this and as this was included in the COABE Journal, I guess my question then is how will adult education practitioners benefit from reading your article, and in turn, how might that benefit their learners?
Yeah, well, I think that adult educators can relate to Bernice Robinson and the task that she had to tackle when she taught at the citizenship schools. She used all the resources she had available at her fingertips to teach her students how to read or to improve their reading skills so that they could pass those literacy tests that you mentioned. Those literacy tests, of course, were later deemed unconstitutional, but at the time they were implemented to basically prevent Black South Carolinians from voting and Blacks throughout the South. Different states followed suit with literacy tests and poll taxes and different things to prevent voting. So, what Bernice did was she basically leveraged her understanding of the community to develop these lessons that were contextualized so that she could engage with her learners so they would learn how to read, but also learn skills that would be helpful for them in their personal lives and in their jobs. And I think that is a takeaway for adult educators today. I think that it's inspirational, the story, but also highly relatable. These are the types of things that adult educators do today in their classroom, trying to find ways to engage their students, and by using personal examples and contextualizing their lessons to keep the students interested and show them that they can apply what they learn to their professional and personal lives. And this is a benefit to the learners as well. With contextualized lessons, learners have opportunities to provide some input on what they learned, whether that input is indirect or direct, and can be assured that what they are learning will have practical everyday application and some immediacy with that application. So that is very beneficial to the learners.
You know, and what I really appreciate about this article is the approach that here's Ms. Robinson volunteering to help folks with literacy tests and so on to take on these injustices in society, and the way that she contextualized that, and actually one of the points that you raised in your article, which I thought was great because I teach at the university level, is the whole idea of how she integrated andragogy and andragogical principles into her instruction. Could you speak to that just a little bit, perhaps?
Yeah, she and I will guess that she wasn't familiar with andragogical
Right.
principles,
Right.
but she recognized the self-directedness of adult learners, and she allowed them to basically give her input on what it is they needed to learn and what they wanted to learn. She understood that they needed to be able to apply what they learned. Pretty immediately. It wasn't a case where, okay, we learned this and we can't apply it for years and years down the road, until years and years down the road, if we apply it at all. So
Mhm.
she had them tracing money orders, reading catalogs. People didn't know how to write, so she had them learning how to write by doing practical things that they could use in their everyday lives. And one of the things that I was very touched about, when and looking at the example of Bernice Robinson, was that she used actual laws, that
Mhm.
that the voters needed to be aware of to teach them how to read. So they were learning these laws, they were learning how to read, and they were also learning the laws that affected them.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's really excellent, that practical approach. I think so many of our practitioners in the field, even today, are integrating realia. They're integrating those practical, whether it's news events, whether it is laws or other types of things that impact us on a daily, daily. They're integrating those types of things into their instruction, and I think that so people are exercising these sound principles of andragogy, may not even realize that's what it's called, but it is so practical. So, although you've pretty much alluded to this, I'm wondering, what do you hope the readers will take away from reading this article? What's the main takeaway?
Um, well, I thought about, when I was writing this article, who the target audience would be, and of course, adult education stakeholders. And I am hopeful that the readers take away the notion that contextualized teaching and learning is an appropriate methodology in adult education. I also hope that the article brings additional awareness to the role of adult education in addressing issues of racial inequities.
Mhm.
Adult education programs are made up of many different racial and ethnic minority groups. Some programs' attendance rolls are majority minority.
Mhm.
A large portion of adult learners may be impacted by things like voter suppression,
Mhm.
issues surrounding immigration and child separation policies, unequal access to healthcare, or some other inequity that is framed along racial or ethnic lines. And I think adult education can play a vital role in aiding adult learners and tackling such inequities. And I think Bernice Robinson provided a really good historical example.
Definitely, and I think too, being a history guy, this is yet another historical event that I was completely unaware of in adult education, and such a powerful one too. So I really, really appreciate you sharing that. Let me ask you, how did you come to become familiar with Ms. Robinson's story?
Well, I am working on my own research, and was constructing an integrated literature review, and came across Thomas Stitch's work that really looked at adult literacy education in different periods, how it was affected by the military and then charitable organizations and volunteer groups. And in that area of adult literacy education, there was a discussion of Miles Horton and his work at Mount Eagle, Tennessee, with the Highlander Folk School, and how a lot of the civil rights activists were trained there. And that's where we found Septima Clark, who was Bernice Robinson's cousin, and this story of how they established the citizenship schools during the civil rights movement period, and just that whole focus on South Carolina, and how it kind of set a foundation for how to approach dealing with literacy issues,
Mhm.
to deal with those literacy tests. So that I came across it just by chance of looking at some other things in a literature review.
Wonderful. Well, what a great find. It really is. And I do think our readers really will appreciate not only the historical significance of your article, but also the practical application. So let me ask you this in closing it out. Is there anything else maybe that we haven't discussed, or anything else that any comments you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, I think I've summed up the major points, but I think just in general that adult educators do a great job accommodating the needs of their students and will continue to do so. Adult education is an evolving sector of education, and its developing focus on issues of equity, I think, is a sign of that continued evolution. So I like this path that adult education is going, and just the focus on how adult education in general can be so pivotal in addressing issues of inequity.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. And again, this is Dalanda Bond. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me and to share a little bit about your article that's featured in our current COABE journal, Racial Equity in Adult Education, a Historical Glimpse at Johns Island Citizenship School. Thank you so much, Dalanda, and thank you, everybody, for taking the time to view this video.
Thank you.